Great. Well, welcome everybody to the show. I am Duke Branos. We are doing the interview with.
Well, welcome everybody to the show. I am.
Kill this page. Sorry.
We are doing the interview with. Well, welcome everybody.
All right, get rid of the second option there. We have our interview with His Royal Majesty of Antir, Sir Octamasades. The best part is probably the last 20 minutes of getting to catch up with him a little bit. We have the opportunity to talk about how the show is going to run and what's been going on. We were lucky enough to have him as part of the show early off, and he was wonderful to have. Life is just hard, and everybody went back to work and along with him, but now he's super busy doing not two jobs, it seems, his real one and the one for the kingdom. And also tonight we have Viscount Tristan and Duchess Ratkin. Yes, say it right.
I'm not a duchess. Don't give me that.
Oh, sorry. You're not.
That's all right.
I think you're a countess. You're right. So what are you going by the way?
Gravinia.
Gravinia. Gotcha.
But I want to know what happened to Octa's crown.
I think he's
heavy. You want me to put it back on?
Yes, please. Wear the heavy crown.
Oh, I can see how this episode's starting already. He was just talking about that crown and how heavy it was, or how it gave him headaches after a certain number of times.
It's on right, the weight of the kingdom and all that.
Okay, well, again, happy to have everybody with us. We're looking forward to a fun interview. We have people that have just both, or one reigning and one just stepped down in Antir. So if you have questions about Antir and the comeback and what looks like a great time there in the past year, it's truly been amazing to watch some of the stuff that they've come back after COVID stuff. So I hope that lots of other kingdoms are having the same experience they are. But Octamasades, so hey, I'm going to start this out by, since you just won crown. What was probably the most difficult moment in crown for you?
Our crown, it's the second time we've done this format. I think this is the second time, where it's a Sweet 16. So we have 72 fighters across 8 Erics, and the top 2 from each Eric advance to best 2 out of 3 till the finals, and best 3 out of 5 in the finals. So the beginning part of that, the Sweet 16, I had a really hard time mentally getting into the groove and trusting myself. And so that was really the toughest part. And then with some help, some good words from some good people, I was able to let go and find a bit of trust and just do what I could do.
So what was different about this time? Because, you've been a crown contender for like decades. And, you've won the champions tourney in Antir several times, almost like a whole hand worth, I think. So what was different this time?
Well, my wife said she wanted it this time. It was the first time she's verbalized that. And I think that I've grown over the years to be able to handle her inspiration, because sometimes that can even be a little overwhelming. And again, the first part of the tournament was rough. I had some great competitors, but I have to props out to Sir Liam, who gave me some really great advice and helped me get out of my own way and give my opponents the best fights that I could. So I finally found the head.
What was the advice?
I told him that I was having a hard time focusing and trusting myself, and he kind of threw one of my classes back in my face and said, "Well, don't you always tell people to give your opponent their best fight? They deserve it." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you giving your opponent your best fight?" And I'm like, "No." And then I drew him in the first round, and it was like the universe handed me somebody I could totally trust to fight and just let it go.
Well, and he also probably expected your best fight since he just gave you that, right?
Oh, he got him. He got my absolute best. There was no holding back. There was no second guessing. There was no worry about losing.
That's the best part, is that's almost a gift. I mean, sometimes having somebody there that that they're going to give you their all, and you can be just all of the truthfulness comes out in those fights, right? And it pushes you to that same place so that you can get that clear mind instead of having, the garbage of Crown rolling around in there, clouding what is supposed to be all of that great technique that you brought from practice, right?
Yeah, and all the competitors in those final half of Crown, they were all amazing. Everybody just brought an amazing amount of ferocity and power and passion into the fights, and it was great to watch them. And everybody was a little different. And, we hadn't fought some of those folks in 3 to 5 years, so it was kind of all new and exciting as well. So every competitor brought something different and brutal to the Crown.
So, talking about, we haven't really been doing stuff for 3 to 5 years. I mean, some people have, and, some people were, training and doing all the online stuff. I mean, both of you guys here we're doing a ton of online stuff and, keeping fighting in mind and, all of those kinds of things between, this show and the 100 day Pell Challenge and all of those kinds of things. One thing I kind of noticed is some of the folks that actually came out that were part of those shows and other things, I could see you kind of knew who was doing those things. Have seemed to do pretty well. I mean, Craig just won Drachenwald Crown, and he was doing our Sundays and watching the show all the time, and so and then you won, and it's been interesting to see. The idea of what, even through a time when we couldn't fight others, we were still able to do stuff. I mean, have you seen much on that end?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, the online content kind of saved me over COVID. It kept me from being depressed, and I was very fortunate to have met Sir Helgi from Kaid prior to the pandemic, and we connected instantly, and we have a Pell night practice every night at 7:00 with guys from Lockock and Kaid and just all over the place. And that kind of work and having to learn how to be, I kind of credit that and working with you guys as taking me from being somebody who I thought I was a pretty good teacher, just now feeling like I'm a pretty good trainer. And I just didn't realize how much growth I could get out of all that. And when you have to teach somebody how to move their feet right from halfway around the world, when you've never seen them in person, you've never had the opportunity to dance with them, and you have to explain how your finger moves and your basket hilt is half inch to throw this shot and your foot's going to turn and the weight transfer, you have to find a way to communicate that. So between that and some of the other content, your Sunday practice, absolutely, that tore my footwork all the way apart. And I ended up just breaking my entire style down over COVID, from big chunks to tiny little bricks. And it was really painful to put back together when I had to actually try and dance with another person as opposed to my Pell. That was a whole nother thing to try and put all that back together. But we have such a great community here that started forming little safe groups to work with, people that are like-minded, that were doing their best to keep people safe, able to put that back in a good environment as we came back from COVID too. So it were those groups of people that helped a lot.
So it seemed to me that you really reignited your passion for both fighting and the SCA over COVID. What do you credit that with? Is it building community or?
I think, and you're right. Before COVID, I was kind of half-assing it. I wasn't really. My spirit for the game had dwindled quite a bit, even though it's like my church. And when COVID hit and we were working from home and we couldn't see all of our friends and we didn't have all those other activities, the SCA is what kept me from going to a dark spot, going to a dark place. And the fact that I could help other folks along with that inspired me. So being able to serve other people and really see them evolve and have that opportunity to exchange. I mean, I learned as much from the people I was teaching and training with as they learned from me. Just being able to be a trainer, if you're paying attention and you've got that beginner's mind, you pick things up and you learn stuff about maybe not about technique, but about your mind and how things work and how people react. And so, yeah, I think that the content I was able to grab onto the coach's corner, the 7 o'clock every night doing Pell work, or even watching videos. If we couldn't get out on the Pells, we were at least together, and the camaraderie. And Yanto taught me about his mead making, and you just learn stuff. And it was that community, finding that again, even though it was all electronic, that really brought me back to the SCA and reinvigorated me.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because you guys, you and Helgi actually finally, made me break a book open and or at least listen to some. I have a 3-4 hour drive to work and home now twice a week. So, but it's been interesting because the books have been just incredible. It's helped my understanding even more and more. Just going through Zen in the art of archery or something like that. I just went through that, real short, but kind of like almost like a deep dive on Musashi's book. So it's been fun. You still burning through books, and
I'm doing a lot
now, right?
I'm doing a lot of rereading. Most of my stuff, I've kind of got my core set of books that I spin around, and those are the ones I just keep going back to. It's hard to get away. I can never get through a whole book at once unless it's like you said, a book on tape where I'm listening to it on my car ride, because inevitably I will read something or hear something and then I got to go back to a different book because it triggers something over there. Like I'll be reading Fear is the Mind Killer and then go over and reread or re-listen to The Art of Learning. And then,
that's a great book. I just read that one too.
Yeah, and then I'll skip over to Peter Ralston's Principles of Effortless Power, which is a huge deep dive, and you can get lost in the mud real quick on there, but there's just little pieces of gems that keep popping up.
The Fighter, I just went back and listened to The Fighter's Mind again as well, which was very good.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. It's a book I have on my phone that I listen to all the time. So, I have a hard time starting new ones.
Before we get away from like the international community building that you did, can you kind of plug your Hawaii thing?
Yeah, so I don't really have the wherewithal to make it all the way to Australia, and my Australian friends agreed to meet up in Hawaii. So if you're not doing anything and you want to come out to one hell of a practice next year, 2023, February 16th through the 22nd-ish, over that weekend, we're all meeting in Oahu. In the Barony of Western Seas, and having one hell of a fight practice. Sean's coming out to that one. Rifkin is coming out to that. Yeah, Helgi is coming out. We got Yanto, Ellender, Duke Gabriel from Lockhawk. We also have, and his name's escaping me right now, one of the just stepped down as being king. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I lost his name. Anyways, there'll be lots of high-end fighters coming out, all different styles, and it's going to be great. So if you're not doing anything, you want to go and hang out at a Wormwater Beach for a couple of days, then come and beat on your friends, eat good food, and watch video of getting beat on, that's the thing to do.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
So that's my version of Adult Swim Hawaii style.
Well, we got a bunch of questions. So, in fact, more than I've seen for a while. Tristan, do you want to go ahead and ask a few of those? Did you see those things? They're like piling up.
Well, there's one that actually refers back to what you mentioned. Somebody is curious of what books are in your course set.
Oh, goodness. So Art of Learning.
Yeah.
Number one. That's a great book. It's Josh Waitzkin's chess prodigy. Halfway through his career, he decides he doesn't want to do that anymore and starts doing competitive push hands. And the way that he talks about learning and building chunks and making those chunks smaller and smaller. So, when you're doing a flat snap, instead of your brain just going, I'm doing a flat snap, it breaks it down into what's my foot doing? What's my rotation doing? Where's my elbow? Where's my hand? How do I finish? Into little pieces, so that then instead of just throwing one thing at any time, you can realign those little pieces. I equate it to like building with Duplo blocks or building with Legos. So I spent all of COVID tearing my style apart and tearing a flat snap into 10 blocks instead of one. Or
and the good part about that is, you know, and I kind of take it in reverse. It's like, you know, we know all of those little pieces sometimes, and to actually assemble them into something makes it hard, because mentally, when you're having to think about every piece, your mind tends to get full and your decision making goes down. Where now you can chunk those together with good form without that thought cycle.
I call it being deliberate. A lot of people
Yeah.
know how to do a thing, but it's not deliberate. If you tell somebody to stand with their feet shoulder width apart and lift a foot, everybody will transfer their weight and lift their foot. And that's not what I told them to do. Nobody, I've not come across anybody that just lifts their foot and falls over. And that's all I asked them to do. They put those like 2 or 3 steps in that they didn't do deliberately. It was just habit. So I'm trying to
drop step is tough to program in.
Yeah, so it's any
I've got some new students that just signed up this last week, and I'm starting them on that process of just letting the body shift rather than shifting the weight onto the other foot to lift it, like we just do every day when we start walking.
Yep. I just want it to be deliberate. I don't want to do something and not know what pieces went into that. So Art of Learning, Principles of Effortless Power by Peter Ralston. That's not a very thick book, but it's got a lot of information that's taken me years to assimilate, and I'm still not all the way through.
Hey, Octa, can you sort of elaborate on how you discovered Peter Ralston? Because you turned me onto him, and I credit you and that book with totally changing my style and saving my body. And nobody ever talks about him except for you.
I think, you know, I just found him in like my 20s. I was very much into Tai Chi and karate and Kung Fu in my 20s. And I was also into books, you know, and I found him and started reading it. And it just was like, at the surface, I learned so much. And then I would go back and reread Musashi because it would trigger something.
Yeah.
And then I would go from there, and I would go to Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, one of my other staples, and go through that mentally. And then that would trigger something. I'd go back to Peter Ralston. And then I was traveling teaching, and I had left my teaching notes, the printouts of my class. So I had to recreate my class, and I had that book, and I was going through it, and I found a new piece. He's all about the gravity foot and the power, you know, and that symbiotic relationship and really how that works, which changed my fighting again. So it was a happy accident. And he has several books. There's a couple that I think are really worth it, and some of them get kind of way spacey. And as he's gotten older, he's definitely very esoteric and way out there, but I love a lot of his early stuff. And
that's saying something coming from you.
Wow.
This is the reason why we wanted her on the show.
It goes way la-la. He goes way la-la, but he's still pretty cool. I think I just named most of them. And then the newest one I've added to the rotation that I've gotten a ton out of, and I would tell you to buy the online book, not the paperback book, is The Liar, the Cheat, and the Thief. Because if you buy the online, you get links to all of the YouTube content. And
nice.
The guy that book is written about, Sonny, and I'm going to forget his last name, Helgi would know, but it's just beautiful. His whole philosophy, and then the movement mechanics. That's what I made my canvas on, with the sun and all the 45 degrees and all of my little dots where I can step. And he has a couple of students that still do online content that I watch all the time. And it's amazing. So I put that book into my repertoire just to remember how to move and flow, just effortless.
So there, you got a couple of other questions here. One of them was they'd like to know. Let's see. I'd like to know how you see this new online connection and participation working moving forward.
I think it's vital. I think that it's bringing our communities way closer together. I think that there were some people that were nervous about it because they said, well, people will just watch and they won't come to events. But I don't see that happening. I think what I see is people that I might have never known I get to participate with, or people that can't make it out to a Kingdom event, they get to participate and feel part of our community. And that's our whole focus on our reign, is trying to make those communities more cohesive and connected. And I think it's absolutely necessary. And it's fun. It's fun to be able to, hey, you know, people are watching. You can get out there and show the awards. People might never have seen that scroll ever, but now they will because we have the cameras right there. And I think that through Sven and Rifkin's reign and through our reign, the folks that are running that are doing a phenomenal job. They just keep getting better and better, and they're not very intrusive. And there's nothing better than to be able to sit on my couch and watch a Lockhawk crown with folks that I've worked with.
No kidding. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. I stayed up till like midnight or after midnight, and Lockhawk had this great thing where they had a Google spreadsheet with all the fighters, and you could go in as a viewer and update who won and who lost and be interactive and playing with that. So you're watching it and you're talking to people about who's fighting. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we watched that on Great Fighters of YouTube. It was a great crown.
Yeah. And all the classes. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.
That also brings us, the same viewer asked this question, which was, do you see it continuing to have an important impact on the fighting community? I think you've answered that partially, but let's look into your crystal ball and see what do you think can happen as this goes forward?
Oh, it has to. I mean, we all have regional techniques, regional styles, and now it's global. You know, I can watch Branos's class and I can even take his class on a Sunday and learn some footwork. I can see folks up doing a great weapon. Tom, who just won the crown. He's one of the best
pole arms. Oh, amazing.
Pole arm guys I've ever seen. And I watch him and I'm just like, oh, I got to get some of that. By the way, he's coming to Hawaii. So
is he? Awesome.
Come on out.
Good for him.
But it's exposure to techniques and styles and mechanics that I would never have been exposed to. And I think that when you get to a level to where you can appreciate the subtleties in those mechanics, it's wonderful. And then through our Pell Night, we get people that we've only seen on video. Hey, come out to the Pell Night. Let's talk about this thing that you did. We can watch the video. They can explain the technique, the mental part of it. And bam, all of a sudden now we have some understanding of something that we might not have been exposed to like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think that's the gift of COVID, is this online presence.
I think, you know, the live feed stuff that we're doing in On Tier is super cool. But I think from like a coaching and training perspective, one of the huge things about Zoom and StreamYard and all these online things is really like the connections that you make and building community internationally. And for me, looking outside at you, Octa, and from talking to my sister, I think that is like a huge credit to your reignition of your passion. Is you've built this community with all of these like-minded people. Like you found your people, and they're not all in On Tier. They're in Lockhawk, and they're in, you know, Kaid. And just from like a training and coaching perspective, I mean, like you've had a huge impact on them. I remember like the Lockhawk crown that Yanto did really, really well in.
I was in tears.
Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think, you know, people always talk about like wanting to get foster knights and stuff when they move, but I think you can use these tools now, and you are using them to train people miles and miles and miles away.
Yeah, I think, I mean, just to that, if you have a great relationship with your peer, there's no reason to end that relationship. I am always of a mind, as my job is to be a enabler with my squires, to find all of the good people that can speak to them with the right language for them to learn. And that might not always be me, but I will have enough passion and wherewithal to reach out to my community and say, hey, I need help, and get these guys help. With working with those guys online, I met Helgi at a Sport of Kings. He got me hooked up with the online Pell practice, and I just went out and I was like, hey, I'm just here to hit the Pell, yak and chat. And then I met Yanto and I met Tully or Erlander, and we started working with those guys, and they were fairly new. I think at one point we all we all PayPal'd Erlander like $20 each and got him hooked up with a new Pell, you know, and because we can't just roll it to Australia and help him build one. And so he was able to go and buy all the stuff. He was a student at the time, and put his Pell together, and then we just started working with him. And you know, I'm out there hitting the Pell, and the first thing Yanto says to me, I'll never forget it. He's like, you seem to me just to be a hitter. Because I'm wailing on the Pell pretty good, just pounding out my frustrations. But I'm like, oh, wow, that's a great observation. I'm just here muscling around my pel. I'm not showing you any technique or any style. So I really focused on, okay, here's who I am. And we broke it down, and he was always willing to listen. And Helgi and I are very different teaching styles, and even our techniques are a bit different, but we get to the same place a lot of times, and we feed off of one another, which is so great. Well, I'll ask him a question to get him going down the rabbit hole, and then we just go. And so we did this with these guys for a year, and then got to watch them fight in Crown, and it's like a nervous, expectant father, right? We're watching him fight, like, oh, he made it through the first round. Oh, he's going to the second. Oh my God, he's at the 5th round, and he's just doing his thing. He's fighting his fight, and we were so proud to watch that and just see how it was nice to see him evolve. And then, of course, we get other folks from their community because they're seeing their fighters evolve and do well. And they were like, well, we want some of that. So they come out and they give as good as they get. And we share knowledge. And Duke Gabriel, Gabs over there, man, he asks the best questions. They're always loaded, and they always have a purpose. And I've learned so much from him on how to train and how to work with folks and the right questions to ask. So yeah, I think that, I mean, that community is super important, because you're right. I'm not always going to find everybody of a like mind, or that's at the same place I am, maybe locally, but in a community that we've created that's worldwide, now we can find that. Now we can get there. I've had folks from Scandinavia Facebook me and want to send me video, and we talk about technique, and it's fun. It's great.
Yeah, it's it's been interesting, because it's 25 years ago when me and Sean first really kind of met. There were just the people that you would tend to meet, or the couple of people that traveled and taught, and kind of traveled out of Kingdom, which wasn't a lot back then. And there was kind of a community, but it was a tiny community. And it's funny. I think I look, and that community travel got easier, but people still tend to stay inside their kingdom where they're comfortable because it's easy.
That's deep.
Yeah, but the top people want to go find more.
Yeah,
and it's so much easier. I think COVID really opened the door to all of those relationships, where it's so much easier going to somebody's house that you talk to, or you can actually see them and talk with them, and they help you and you help them. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, I got to go visit my friend. It's no big deal to jump on a plane and go somewhere and do something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's amazing. I think I when I look at it, I believe we're on the cusp of what could be just a huge jump in what our understanding, at least our understanding of fighting, is within the society. The good or bad, by the way, because the bad part is a lot of people just want to do it for fun. And when you have the people that do get that education and that are driven, tend to get techniques down so that losing becomes more difficult compared to somebody who's just out there having fun. So I think the casual enjoyer is the bad part that comes out of this equation, but the good part is that it's allowing people to do things. I found that a lot of people at our practice just come out to do footwork. They're not even necessarily fighters. And, they just want to they want to do footwork, as some of the fencers, but because I have a guy that's just turned 73, and I tell you, he's been fighting for 20 some years. I think he's fighting better now than 20 some years ago. And his footwork is super good. It amazes me every time. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Somebody else had a great question. And just because I want to know what the hell it means. If he hasn't spoken about them, would you ask him about his drop bear shot and his marsupial pouches?
So that's the one thing the guys online have to learn about me, is that I have a lot of optimisms. Sodomisms? I don't know the right way.
That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't either. No, as soon as it came out of my mouth, call them whatever. So the way I explain things when we're fighting is basically based on just trying to invoke a feeling. So my Lockhawk, and I'll use the term loosely, friends got me going, because sometimes I can be a little gullible, and they had me believing in drop bears. Until I started really researching and realized this is a bunch of crap. And then I came back onto the Pell Night thing, and they all laughed. I'm like, all right, that's good. So now everybody, before I go to Hawaii, I'm going to get little angry drop bear tattoos made. And everybody's going to get an ass wrap. And we're going to call that the drop bear. But as far as the marsupial, I really like fighting at all ranges, but I really enjoy being in close, because I feel like a lot of people aren't always comfortable there, and you can really tell a lot about somebody by how antsy they get when you get in close. And I call it climbing in the pouch, because I will literally straddle your sword arm thigh, get under your armpit, and climb inside the pouch where it's safe. So that's marsupial fighting, getting up in and close and tight, and just living in that space for a little bit. Thank you, Tully, for that question.
Let's see. There was one more question I found interesting as well. And do you ever see our sport becoming a spectator sport where people who don't necessarily participate instead watch for the enjoyment of it?
I would hope so. I think people love to watch a good crown, especially when they know the fighters. And we as a fighting community are doing a good job of being that community and being a trusting opponent for the person that we're fighting. Because that makes it all good. There are times, we've all seen them, there's some cringeworthy fights that happen, whether on purpose or not. And sometimes that could just be because the viewers don't have the full understanding of how the fights are happening. Duke Sven and I up here had a 2-stick fight at an Ursulmus years and years ago, and there was lots of contact, but there wasn't lots of good contact because we were both moving. We were running and turning and inside the circles. And I had a dear friend of mine go, wow, that looked really ugly. And I'm like, wow, okay, so the perception of that is it wasn't clean. And I stopped fighting 2-stick for a long time. I still haven't picked it back up 100% because of that perception. So we as fighters just need to understand how we're perceived, especially from non-fighting community. But I think that it's absolutely a spectator sport. I think that you can ham it up to the crowd a bit without losing your mental focus. I think that you can bring just a really awesome fight to your opponent. And when you win, honor your opponent. When you lose, honor your opponent. That's all we can do. The first thing I did after I won my last fight was take my helmet off and go get into Nikolai's face and tell him how much I appreciated him being there for me and being that opponent that allowed me to win the crown. I mean, he didn't give it to me, but he answered the last question by accepting my blow, and that was very gracious. And I don't know that people understand. I get a little teary about it, but that's a huge gift when somebody acknowledges, even if they're saying no, that wasn't good. It's still a gift, and that's all we do with our swords is ask questions until somebody gives us an answer. Did that answer that question? I'm not sure if that answered that question.
You know what? You answered it better than me because I answered it online, but I read it wrong. Where I was thinking more on the training side, where it's going to be more people learning online than in person. That can't happen because they're not one and the same. But then after you brought that up, I think, Great Fighters of YouTube, we've been doing that for 2 years. I mean, we watch every crown we can find film for. We watch fight practice footage. It was nice. Louis, Sir Louis has been broadcasting our fight practices for a long time on Facebook. Yep. And it's nice because sometimes you just go watch for a night. You get a little time, you'll start watching. It's like, hey, I want to replay that right there. And Sir Fox, local guy, somebody actually reposted and said, go to this part. You could see where he's explaining a blow to somebody that you haven't seen before to his group. And it's like, okay, there's something to, that somebody pulled out of something that was online, just a practice that you would not normally get, it's so easy to stream now.
And I think, and it's not just, as I think about the answer to that question, it's not just about the fighting community. We have heralds out there. Mm-hmm. They're doing an amazing job, and they make it fun to watch. We in our crown required a banner. We had 72 fighters, and we had a couple of folks that built us this beautiful banner holder, and we had all the banners up there, like the West.
Wow.
and it was amazing. And they were there all day because you didn't get out of the fight until you got through your first Sweet 16, and then only half of them come down. Well, more than half of them come down, but quite a few of them come down. But you still have those banners, and it was just amazing. And the whole pageantry of it all. In our finals, we didn't just ask the knights out. We asked all the peers. We asked the companions of the Rose to take the field and witness the final fight, because we wanted to have all of that pageantry and everybody feel like they're part of the community, part of that final fight in the tournament, because it does affect everybody. So that was really, really cool to have. And it was a little sad, some of the folks that were surprised that we were asking them to take the field and witness the final round of the crown, because they had never been given that opportunity. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of crappy. Let's do it. So yeah, yeah.
I was just going to say that I think that the building of the community over the pandemic and the live streaming and the interviews and all of that have actually opened up the fighting community in a way that we really needed to the other facets of the SCA, so people understand better what we're doing, and that it's not just swinging a stick, and that there's nuances and passion, and I think there's a real opportunity there to bridge some of the disconnect, I guess, between the fighting community and other parts of the SCA that have festered over the years, and the live feed is part of that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So next question, and I kind of brought it up earlier. For a new fighter, what 3 things do you think is most important?
Man, I don't know if I can limit it to 3.
Well, remember, they're new, so can't give them too many things.
For a new fighter, consistency, and I'm going to put this as 2: consistency and finding a little community that they can be part of. Finding those mentors for their journey, I think, is really important, and those go hand in hand, because if you're not going all the time, you're not building the community, and you're not doing yourself a service of getting your body and your brain into gear and coming along. Something I tell all new fighters, all experienced fighters, all fighters, all people: when you're learning something or you're out doing something, do it with a beginner's mind. If you do it with an I know mind or a professional's mind, it'll take you forever, because you will not be open to the things you can learn. I try and teach with a beginner's mind, but always be open to new ideas. It doesn't mean you're going to take everything somebody fire hoses at you because they're excited to teach you stuff, but you might take those 2 or 3 things, and then if you were listening and you're open to it, a couple years from now, when Rifkin told me that's what that meant. I got to go back and find her and learn the rest of that lesson, because I'm ready for it now. But without the beginner's mind, you can't get there. And then just understanding that the physical part of this game is the first 10% of what we do. And it takes a lot of maintenance, but it's the first 10%. It's the mental game, which separates the casual fighter from the tournament victors. So those people that can be in the space and it's deliberately automatic, if you will. They've put the time in and built both the physical and the mental aspect to where it is working smoothly, and it takes a while to do that. I was knighted in 2002, and I won crown in 2022. So 20-year anniversary for my mental game to get to the point where I could win a crown.
That's, I guess, a good question. Those are questions we always kind of ask anyways. And that is, so how long were you fighting before you became a knight?
I started in the SCA in 1989 or 90. I had fought on the field as a light fighter for a year before I got all my stuff together. So 91 maybe. And then 91 to 2002 before I was knighted.
Okay. So almost like 9 years.
Yeah. And I was squired originally to a Master of Arms, Master Timothy McDaniel, who was a big giant dude and had injured himself in a car accident, so he had to learn to fight left-handed, which was perfect for me because I came out of high school with a shoulder injury and ended up, after re-injuring it every 3 months in SCA fighting, had to learn to fight left-handed. So that started my journey. And then when I moved to Portland and Timothy stopped playing a lot, he was just not as active. I met Jarl Alfred, and Jarl Alfred had that engineering brain that kept me in line and evolved, helped me to really lay a foundation for an evolution and a thirst to explore and expand. He was always looking for new drills to make us do. And when I didn't want to fight with the heavy round shield, he's like, suck it up. You're fighting with it. You made it. And so I fought with it. And yeah, so there was a lot of community that went into getting me to where I am.
So basically 9 years to be knighted and 20 years to get the first crown.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cool. When did you start into your fighting philosophy? Kind of went along with it. How did that go?
I think I probably didn't really get going into that. Well, I've always been into it a little bit, but there was never anybody that expressed it like I did. So I was kind of a closet philosopher when it came to fighting. And I know after I was knighted, I was up at our Duke Sven's house on the way to go to a war the next day, and I met Duke Sean, who happened to be there. And you always, it's like, hey, start going a little esoteric, and then he would go a little esoteric back. And at 4 a.m., we finally decided I had to go to bed to get up and fight this war. And I'd finally met somebody who spoke that philosophy, the esoteric part of it, the head game pieces. And I'm like, oh, this is okay. There are other people out there like me that like this stuff. So I think that would have probably been when I started deep diving into that. So probably, I don't even remember when that was, but it was after I was knighted.
Do you feel like it was always kind of an interest of yours that you just never ran across that type of person, or was it something that you felt ready for, and you happened to have crossed paths with somebody that kind of was ready when that spark was there?
I've always been interested in that, to the point like Tai Chi and really understanding body mechanics. But I think the dumbest thing I ever said was right after I was knighted. I'm like, okay, fighting is 80%. The last 20% is mental. And I'm like, oh, what a dumbass thing that was to say out loud. And that just shows how naive I was even when I got knighted. And so I would say that it was definitely after being knighted and after getting over that. And I hate that it's a thing, but getting over that need to show and that need to perform to where you can relax into yourself a little bit. That's when my mind opened more and allowed that to come in. And I think it still took a decade for me to really start down that path. And then this last decade to really, really deep dive into it and make that an integral part of what I do.
Did you feel that getting knighted was part of, you felt a lot more pressure for that performance and to like go to another level with it? Well,
I think we always, as unbelts, and it's been a while, so I speak to this, but I feel like you're always feeling like you're out there to show. And even if you're not chasing the accolade, people are always watching you, and there's always a bit of pressure, especially if you haven't won any tournaments and you're trying to do that too, because you want to be good enough to win a tournament. And there's always a little bit of pressure that focuses in your brain. And some days it's good. Some days, I remember fighting with Duke Thorne, and I swear to God, I could have hit his leg 9 times and he hit me in the neck every single time, but I was too stubborn to not throw the blow. So it's like that, where you're focused on a certain thing and you can't see the forest for the trees because you just don't have the tools to step back and look at it. And so some of those lessons were easy. Some of those lessons were a little harder. And when I was knighted, I kind of felt at the worst of my career. I had just come off the field. I was having a bad day. I couldn't make anything go right. And Alfred walks up to me and says, so the only question I have for you is, do you want a vigil or not? And I'm like, what?
Nice.
What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, they want to make you a knight. I'm like, are you talking to the right squire? I'm not sure we should be having this conversation. And so that was kind of a mind-altering experience there. And then it was just a year of getting to, listening, a year of listening and just trying to be part of a new community that I really never felt connected to. I didn't have a lot of friends that I felt that were knights that I felt were close friends. They were more all my heroes and stuff. And so all of a sudden I was into this new community and didn't know where to put my hands, so.
I think everybody feels like that when their first crossing the threshold into the chivalry is you kind of feel like you've broken into your neighbor's house.
Well, and for what we're doing with community, I mean, it's no joke when you come to a Strong Guard practice, it's an on-tier crown. The two of us that finaled in the crown that I won go to that practice all the time, and we have a lot of knights that show up to that practice. And my goal is to make all the fighters there feel like they're part of the fighting community, part of the SCA community worldwide, right? And not so that if they pursue that accolade and they get there, that it's not as much of a surprise, or we're already friends, we're already going into this, our relationship just changes a little bit, so that it is not such a big learning curve, if you will, or a big mind screw when you step out of it. We try and take that part away, so it's not about chasing the accolade, it's about chasing your own performance. It's about being better than you were yesterday, and by doing that, if you're better than you were yesterday, then I'm going to be better, or I'm going to be stubborn, and eventually I'll be better.
That's that whole build a great practice type of deal. Go ahead, Rifkin.
I was going to ask you, when did you come up with the mantra of believe, behave, become? Was that part of like trying to fit into the Knight Circle? And what does it mean to you?
I found that in a tiny little book, and for the life of me, I can't remember what the name of it was. And that would have been really close to when I was knighted, and I can't remember if it was before or after, because I've had it for a long time. But it's just sort of simple thing. So believe. So instead of worrying about stuff and trying to, I got to get here, I got to get there, just believe that you can do it. Once you have the belief, the focus, I can do this, then you behave that way. Okay, so if I want to have more wind and I want to have better endurance, okay, I can do that. It's within my grasp. Okay, now I'm going to do the behaving part. I'm going to go out and do the things that I would do if I had that endurance level consistently. And then become. The becoming is the easy part. If you believe and you behave, others, in the instance of being the whole knighting thing, if you're doing the first two, the becoming is up to your community, and they will see that. And if it's okay, if I'm going to believe and behave and I'm going to go for this mental space, I want to achieve a victory in this thing, then you get to be your own becoming. You get to realize that on your own terms. I just think that it tears it back down to just three simple things. It's not about all the other things. It's just behave. Some days you can't behave to the best that you want, but you can still have a behavior. I can still get up on time. I can still go to a practice, even if I'm not going to put my kit on, which I didn't do this week. So shame on me. But it's just things like that, adapting those behaviors and bringing folks with you. If I say I'm going to go to practice, maybe two more people will go to practice and weren't going to go. And now I've raised my community as well as myself. So that's been something that's always, as soon as I read those words, it's always rung true. I think I've doodled that in every notebook I've ever had. And sometimes little things pop up when you need them. And I'll open something when I'm having a bad day. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, we can do that. We can do that. Those three words in beginner's mind, they've been on every class handout I've ever taught. And then, did I cover your full question?
I think so.
Yeah, you covered the three. So
I kind of went around in a circle there.
and
And get lost in my own brain.
So, you talk about missing practice, and there's a lot of interest. I've been around a lot of good and bad of that. It's obviously time is hard because you're spending extra time doing office things as the crown. Sometimes you're adding another day or two a week of planning and working with your staff to get stuff done to make what is going to be a great presentation for the folks that you're giving things to on the weekend, and the dream, trying to help create that dream. I've seen a lot of people miss practices or say they just don't have time for practices, and I've seen the negative side of that, and it's always a little bit interesting for me. I like watching that mindset. But I have a feeling that's not you necessarily. I've seen people where they don't get to fight as much at events. That tends to be hard. The good part is you get to fight higher level people at events. But you don't get to fight as much because you can't participate in the tournament. You get pickups, but then you have to leave early to get other stuff done. How's that? How are you feeling about that impacting your time? Is there concern there?
I've been doing fairly well in these last few weeks. Dropped off a bit because we were kind of doing back-to-back, and with Great Western War, I kind of went down to the war, and I didn't feel like I had as much juice as I would have liked to have had for that. But it's been a little tough. I've also swapped in some rapier and been doing fencing on Monday nights, and then trying to get to fighting practice on Thursdays, and working with both communities. And I've had to back off on the fencing a bit because I need to strengthen a bit of my shoulders so I don't injure myself, because that's a whole different set of muscle groups that I have to use. But my goal is to get back to my regular Thursday practice. It was interesting, but we have such a great team for our crown. The people that are supporting us I couldn't even imagine it. Some of the folks I've not even known a year, but they are part of my family and some of the most dearest people in my life. And the giving that folks have done has just blown me away. Absolutely blown. We want for nothing. And people think of things before we need it. So from that regard, there is a bit of a workload that we have to do, and that takes time. But other than being a little lazy lately, I'll get back to it. Rifkin just made me a new shield. You can kind of see, whoops, wrong way. See in the background there, which I got some use this weekend, and I'll get back into it. I really enjoy practice, and like I said, we have quite variable skill levels at our practice. So, and I just took on a new squire who's watching because I saw him post a question earlier about and he's a passionate man, and I can't wait. I miss not going to practice to see him because he teaches me a ton every time we fight, and he leaves bruises on me, which encourages me to get faster and better and stronger. So,
what's something that you want to do as Crown to shape the fighting community, and what are you doing to drive that goal forward?
So we kind of talked about the communities, and one thing about, and I don't know if it's true for everybody's chivalry communities, but our community and with in the fighting world in Ontario is very global. It feels like there's not a lot of regional groups that are active. So what we've tried to do with the chivalry is take that global group and break it up into smaller groups so that it's more effective in their local communities. And we try and only spend, like if we've asked them all to have their local regional meetings and to really spend the first 15 or 20 minutes maybe talking about candidates, but the next hour or hour and a half talking about their community. How can they support their local principalities? How can they support their baronies? How can they support, my first big thing in the SCA was I was a sergeant of Adiantum, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. I can still remember all of the things I had to do that. I can remember the sergeants that I went through that with, still friends to this day with most of them. And I think we as peers, not just the chivalry, but all the peerages, we can be there for the baronies to help support those trials. We can help with, because they've got a huge, I think that's one of the hardest jobs in the SCA is being a baron and baroness and keeping all of those cats together and focused and engaged. So I think as chivalry, the least we can do is give back to our communities, not just go out and show up to fight practice or show up to the tournament, but volunteer at gate, volunteer to teach some non-fighting classes. So, and if you have a barony that's struggling and there's peers in it, those peers need to be there going, hey, not this is what you need to do, but hey, what can we do to support you? I think that we need to be there with the bucket and the mop, and not necessarily always pushing our agendas, so to speak. We need to ask how we can help first, and then offer words of wisdom if we have them, or just do what
support it.
Yeah. So that's what we're pushing, and I think I was thinking about this. What is their after crown? What do I do? Because this has been a gift for me, because I have taken from the SCA for more than half of my life, giving back here and there, but this is the first role that I've had that I've really been able to serve my friends, my communities, the SCA, and give back at a large level, and it's meant a lot. And when we step down, I think trying to do that on a, going back to the global and trying to foster the communities however I can globally, I think is really important. And making our fighting communities more succinct and I don't know, caring for one another, That's what the SCA is to me. You can go anywhere and find a couch to crash on and somebody to hit you with a stick or to teach you how to do a thing. That's pretty special.
I totally agree. Building that place where you can help people enjoy their lives and, do things they may have never thought they could do is a huge gift.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, just people being able to be seen. That's been both the happiest thing for me as being in Crown, and really the saddest is some folks, you give them an award and you've done your research and you make it personal for them, and they break down because they feel seen for the first time since COVID started, or maybe longer, and you realize how simple it is to give somebody a sense of belonging, and how important it is for people to feel seen. And you can't ever assume that, well, that person's doing this, they're in the heart of everything. They might not be. They might need a little thank you, or a little, hey, why don't you come and eat dinner with us, or just any little thing, or hey, can I help you do this thing? So
has reigning changed your perspective on how to communicate or coach people?
I promise my retinue to think a lot harder before I speak. Because I have a tendency, as you all know, to just the words come out of my mouth before filtering through my brain. So I have applied some pausing and filters. It has, as a younger man, I don't think I would have been as good at King, because I was very abrupt when people were doing things that I didn't think were the right thing or the courteous thing. And I've learned a bit as sitting in the chair to take a deep breath sometimes, get both the stories, figure some stuff out, and find a way to make the person better. If you treat people as they are, they stay as they are. If you treat people as they can be, they have a chance to excel and grow. So I have tried to be the listener in councils and talk to my beautiful, wonderful queen that talks me off the cliff. And I've learned a lot from that. So trying to give people a chance to get there on their own, maybe. And I feel very fortunate that in most of our reign, people have really been getting there on their own and actually been thirsting for the opportunity to get to a good place.
You're making them thirsty.
That's a drop there for you.
Sorry, I had to.
All right, somebody has to fill us in.
I don't know. Delicious.
I hear somebody else in the background laughing. So somebody else already.
That's the cackle. When you get all three sisters together and they cackle at you, you usually just want to go curl up in a ball.
Yeah.
It is worse than any shot to the hip unarmored. And wonderful all at the same time.
Thanks for being a good sport.
Absolutely.
I get it, man. I'm in the same place. You get the sisters together, and it's like, I'm just gonna go be quiet over here before I get drawn into being crushed.
With love.
So is it? I hear that you are learning from your squire, so to speak. Maybe you could explain how he's training you.
Well,
is that true?
Yeah, he's a different style. I've watched him grow up in the SCA from a very young age, and then he kind of went away to do school, and he was mentored to some other folks in the SCA. And when he came back, he kind of cleared that slate. And when we saw him come back, we as Chivalry, because we were focusing on our community, said, hey, we need to really make sure that this person gets support. And he kind of started talking to a few of us. And I have a rule: I don't take a squire unless they ask me, because I kind of feel like I can teach people a lot, but I'm not always the best teacher for getting them to speak for themselves and having that passion. If somebody comes to me with a little bit of that passion, I can make it big. We can take it to the limit and find all of the ferocity and good times. But he's come out and he's very fast. He's got very fast hands. He's tall, which I am not. So in teaching him how to look at his style a little bit different, teaching him to be tall, teaching him to maybe pull back on some of the power and give that up for some of the foundational movement and stuff. It's making me reevaluate things again and look at technique and style and figuring out what works for him. Hey, does any of that work for me? How can we use it? And he's making me, I have to be quicker. I can't rely sometimes on some of my tricky stuff, and I have to make sure my corners are in the right place and my footwork is clean. So he's making me be a little less lackadaisical, as it were. And I've given him homework. I've told him to go watch, we had a video of practice, and he and I haven't had a chance to talk since then, but I'm like, okay, I want you to watch your video and I want you to come up with some things on what you're seeing. And then I'll tell you what I'm seeing, and then we can put that together and try and come out with truth. Because that's really my other thing that I would say to a new person, any person, is reevaluate your truth. And that's for everything. And it can be daily. It can be from fight to fight. Because if you're lying to yourself, it makes my job way easier. If your perception's not reality, that's my whole goal, is to lie to you, to make you believe I'm somewhere I'm not, or I'm a different speed than I am, or I'm going to do this when I'm going to do something else. So that's just reevaluate where you're at. It's not a bad thing to understand your limitations. Better yet, if you know your limitations, you can use them to your advantage. You can, I can't throw a wrap today without hurting my arm. Great. Decide that before you step out on the field. Otherwise, you will throw the wrap and you will hurt yourself. So working through that. So we're trying to do that. That's a beautiful thing. There's always video of our practice. Somebody is always taking tape. And if I don't have mine going, somebody else does. And we get different angles. And so just having to be thoughtful and really pay attention.
You guys usually put that up somewhere, or on a local site, so that you guys can share that tape? Or
yeah, I've got my YouTube site that I put all my tape on. Bato, who's currently the Prince of Summits, he has a big YouTube presence, so whenever he's up, he's just rolling tape. I think Nikolai, he and Anna, thank you, Anna de la Sarre. She takes a lot of tape when she's up, and she puts that up. So we kind of over time start to friend and follow all these different local
that's great stuff.
Videos. So it's great to go watch something from a year ago.
No, actually, I think that's the reason. The reason why I asked, I was like, that's kind of an interesting way to do that. And how you were sharing it was the question. I think more for other people to understand that they can do that same kind of thing and help each other. What you guys are doing at practice, and that is taking tape and sharing it, getting different angles, and then you can, you can review stuff and look at specific stuff, through those type of scenarios. So
and we do that.
Great idea.
Every night at 7, our Pell practice has kind of turned in lately to tape review. Yanto has a ton of hours of footage of their practices. Erlander Tully, we were watching tape of his stuff yesterday. And so anybody that comes on, if they bring tape, we just watch their tape and we watch it through. And then if Helgi's driving, we watch it. We can go through a 20 or not even 20 minutes, let's say a 10-minute fight and make it last an hour, because we're just tearing it apart and really deep diving on posture and everything. And it's been really fun. That's what's been teaching me the most lately, is really hearing how other people, what their perceptions are of a piece of video.
You said something earlier about like owning your truth and perception. What do you do with the student that owns their truth so much that they like are self-deprecating or they despair? Because I think that's a problem a lot of people have. It's not overconfidence, but underconfidence.
Well, I would say if you're being true to yourself and you're paying attention to that, that shouldn't be a self-deprecating thing. It's just honesty. And so I try and reassure folks that, like, look, this is honestly where you're at. Your flat snap is, let's go on that deprecating. It's slow and your footwork is off. Great. That means we have something to focus on and work on. And then you build on that. And eventually, if they're doing the other things, the believing and the behaving, then it's going to get better. We watch people evolve. And then all of a sudden you're fighting, and I stopped the fight when we're at practice and say, hey, you just turned your foot when you stepped in. That's exactly what you wanted to do. And hey, your blows are landing edge on now, where those blows before were flat. That's awesome. Or hey, I watched you block my shot as I was rolling my shoulder to throw it, or picking up something perceptive that maybe they had missed. Or, you know, you get the person where you do the little pump fake and they honor you with the dance because they're blocking everything. And then eventually they calm down and they trust, because they're being honest with themselves. I already had that blocked. I didn't need to move when Octa threatened the snap because I was already defended. So I think it's defining that honesty of where you're at, and then just like failure, that's opportunity. Now we know where we can improve. If you already think you're fast enough, well, then you are gonna have a bad day, because you might not be, especially if you're not honest with yourself. Or how are you fast? You know, are you perceptively fast? Are you just muscle twitch fast? So I don't think honesty is a bad thing, but people have to. I've not had to deal too much with people going down that rabbit hole of I'm not enough, and the honesty becoming a negative thing. I'm a pretty positive person most of the time, so trying not to say, hey, you really screwed that up. It's like, hey, here's an opportunity. This is how we're going to tune this up. Try this. Okay, that doesn't work. Let's try this. Okay, let me go find Kieran. He's really good at this off tempo. Here, let's work with him and see if he can find a way to get through. And I think honesty is a great thing. I think when you can do it, I think the hardest thing is being honest. And usually the people that have the most struggle are the ones that are scared of being honest with where they're at.
Yeah, I think when you got back to that, the idea of truth, and truth can be both, you know, you see more than, you know, you see something that you're actually not doing, and you know, you're evaluating it on the positive end, where, you know, it's like, no, I'm doing this great. And you're like, well, let's not say great yet, because maybe you got a couple more pieces there.
Yeah.
But yes, you're doing it well. And then, you know, then you do have the opposite side where people I have a number of people that watch their stuff, and that could include me. And it's like, wow, man, that is total crap. And, but you have to also be truthful there too. You have to say, yeah, that was total crap, but you still win. And so what did you do that got you there?
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it's not to the way you want it, but, you know, there's still that end of maybe the way you want it wouldn't have got you to win.
And I think the thing that hurts people the most, and I would put it in the format of, you show up to practice and you're asking all the knights for their 3 best fights.
Yeah.
You just want that tournament level fight. Give me your 3 best. And you go out and you fight those, and you get beat. But then your brain starts to go into safety mode. You're like, well,
yeah,
I ate before I showed up. That's why I got beat. Oh, I didn't sleep well last night. So when you start lying to yourself like that to make yourself feel better instead of just owning your truth, that does way more damage than anything else. Plus, if you articulate that out loud,
never
it makes people not want to participate with you, because you're like, hey, now you're making excuses. So you're saying that I didn't win. I'm just doing dumb luck. And it's not that person's hung up on needing the victory, but it's just kind of a rude way to engage, and it's not good for you.
No, I agree. And you never take somebody's win back away from them.
Yeah.
And this period, you know, I don't care if you went out there one-armed because your shoulder's blown up or whatever, and the other person won, they won. You went out there in the way you were, and they won. You want to make a difference? Go back next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and better yet, say, okay, I got smoked 3 times. Can each person, hey, can you give me a piece of advice, something that you saw that you took advantage of? Boom. Now you've taken that. Great. I lost. I failed. How can I turn that into a win? Oh, I got this one piece of information from this person, one piece from this person. Hey, I was fighting so-and-so last week. They told me the same thing. Maybe I need to go back to them too and figure out how to do this better. So you rob yourself of opportunity when you lie to yourself or you self-deprecate. Yeah, I would hope that if I did that, somebody would say, quit being a jerk and tell me to quit it. Yeah. If I was self-deprecating or stuff like that, because it's not fair to I hope people love me enough to do that. And it's my job to be open enough to go, oh yeah, you're right. Thanks. I appreciate the caring.
Totally agree. So what other, I mean, it's been your first time on the throne, and it sounds like you're all in.
Oh yeah.
It's very cool that you kind of had family following family.
Yeah.
And do you plan to do it again?
I think so. Not right away. I mean, I'll fight in every crown that I can. Okay. Whether or not I find that headspace or not. It definitely is expensive both in time and in every other way. And it's not that's bad. It's so rewarding. I've learned so much. I've learned that I would do anything for a seneschal, whatever they need. I'm there because our seneschal is amazing. She makes it so that the magic never gets stuck in the muck. She keeps all of that official business and takes care of it. Most of the time, we don't even know she's doing it until she sends us an email.
That's a good seneschal.
Does that and then the heralds. I never knew there were so many heraldic positions. There were so many folks and offices in the heraldry, and I think it's amazing and it's fantastic. And I feel like an idiot for not learning it sooner. But I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to learn. Now I'm going to learn it and figure out all the different offices and what they do, and I think that's amazing. So, as far as me, yeah, I would love to do it again. I think that it's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's like the biggest way I've been able to give back to our community, and that boggles my mind.
Dynasty.
That's right. Plus, there's a few more heroes that I'd like to meet in the finals. So,
Rifkin.
Yeah.
Exactly. There we are. Well, the good thing, Rifkin, he's not going to practice anymore, so you're going to be able to just lay some pounding down.
He's going to practice. He just isn't always putting his armor on.
As long as I don't get thrust in the face, it's a win.
Just every week, bring a box of donuts and give it to him. That'll pay.
There you go.
No, I have a very regimented way that I practice. So whenever I'm working with, or I have a new person, not even a new person, when I'm fighting somebody different at practice, I start in a very controlled range, managing the entire fight for the first 3 or 4 engagements, and then we kind of get into that middle measure B range where now it's a little more flow, but still not adding a lot of the mental game yet, just kind of letting the flow happen, letting the shots evolve. And then towards the end of the practice, it's very deliberate, very higher level thinking or not thinking practice. And I did find that I've been stuck in the trainer mind so much that I couldn't get out of it like I used to be able to shift. So I had to, before Crown, which was nice for me, I went and I just told everybody I'm fighting. Tonight, I'm fighting for me. Tonight, I'm not training. Tonight, I'm not giving feedback. Tonight, all I'm doing is killing my opponents. So if you want that fight, let's fight. But if you don't want that fight, I totally understand. And a lot of folks were up for it, and it was very much what I needed to just be in that headspace for an evening and just live there. And I would tell just like you're practicing your flat snap, you got to practice your headspace. And
100%. Good. Well said.
yeah, and Josh Waitkins in the book of Art of Learning, he practices recovery. They were in tournaments where the tournaments were screwing with him and messing with him to let the other folks win. And so he went home and he practiced a 1 minute recovery because that's what he could control, is how fast he recovered. So it's another thing to practice when you're practice. Go all out until you can hardly breathe, and then practice your recovery.
Yeah, and then then there's practice getting in that mindset. A lot of people have rituals, and sometimes same book, he talks about the 15-20 minute ritual he had, and he found that he didn't have it before fights. So he learned to shrink those rituals down to, he starts that way, and then he finds the piece inside that ritual that he can still hold on to, and shorten it down to a minute, and be ready to walk into a list. A lot of people have, Ronvald has the salute and things like that. I had some things I did in the past, but after a while, it gets to the point of just walking into the list, and you just, that's your place, and that's the thing that clicks. But those are practiced. You have literally, you can practice going into flow, but you have to be able to find that method. And Josh talks about that in his book on how he helps somebody do that. The Zen and the Art of Archery talks about that on a more woo-woo space. But it's the same thing. It's a place that you can practicing your mind is a big piece of it too. We don't think about that much. Practicing recovery, recovery, not only physically, but mentally, because that comes out of that book as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, again, this is with being deliberate, right? I used to have a deliberate set of rituals, but if any one of those things got screwed up,
then you're done.
It was like sitting in a seat that's not yours. It's like, it's down to the point where if I started on the left side of the Eric and somebody got there before me and I had to go to the right side, it felt weird.
Yeah.
So I trimmed my ritual down to most of my stuff's done before I hit the Eric. Like you said, I step onto the field, and then really it's the final, when the marshals say, "Are you ready?" That's my spot. That's when I'm not exhausting any mental game until they ask me that, and it's a nod, and I'm all in. Because some tournaments you don't get to salute everybody, or you might not get all the pageantry that you normally get. And if that's something that you need to get you in that headspace, you're going to be out of luck. And you're going to, whether you realize it or not, it's going to be that little itch in the back of your head that keeps you from being able to be 100%. So I try and teach people, like, look, everything stays in the armor bag. Your day at work stays in the armor bag. The drive to the event stays in the armor bag. You pinching your finger when you put up your tent stays in the armor bag. When you cross those ropes, it's just you and your opponent, and they get the best. Everything else stays in the armor bag. So making that ritual as small as possible so that it's not a big crutch that can get yanked out from underneath you, I think is important.
Yeah, and that's a 100%. And sometimes it takes time to get there. So and that's fine.
20 years.
But all of this is about just releasing thought in your head most of the time. You need a clear mind, and it's a very hard thing to get to that clear mind. So, and what that clear mind does, or there are lots of people say no mind or whatever, but it gives that place where you can execute thought very quickly, where you're not stuck on the last fight, or the last blow that you threw didn't hit a certain way. Yeah, that's not where you're thinking. That as soon as you throw the blow, it's gone. You're already thinking about the next one. You're realizing what happened in the past one so that you could gather information from it. But then you're moving on already to the next thing you're doing. If that's a movement or another throw, you're already moving on. If you get caught up in the last one, you freeze. It's just the same reason why we see people get clipped, and then they're like, that's a thought.
Yep.
And then they get hit.
Yeah. They pull from their lizard brain into their peripheral brain.
Yeah.
As soon as you bring somebody into there, the thought process is slower.
Yeah. And then that's where you want to keep them.
Yeah. Yeah. I deliberately try and pull people in, because if they have to think about something, that just gives me another half a heartbeat to do what I need to do.
So.
Right on.
All right. Well, we've got about 10 more minutes. Is there any, I guess, we kind of burned through a lot of stuff, a lot of good fighting stuff. I really enjoy talking fighting with you. I'm going to send you another book I think would be a great one for you to listen to. Talks about mental and physical recovery quite a bit, and how the mental and physical cycles are bound, and burnout. I've probably listened to it 2 or 3 times already. I want to give everybody at my work a copy of it. It literally talks about, people running 100%, looking like, guys that are in their 20s, third down in the White House, and burning out 2 years after.
Yeah. You can only run at full speed so long.
That's 100% it. And then they have a lot of great, of great stuff, of studies in the book, including Princeton's study on their basketball team they did, where they made the basketball team sleep an extra hour, half the basketball team, and they ended up performing 12% better.
Yeah.
How do you measure that?
They did free throws. They did all of these types of drills, timing drills, running drills, back and forth, all of that kind of stuff. And half the team, they were like, keep your normal flow. And the other half of the team are like, we want you to sleep an hour or 2 longer a day.
You have to tell us what the name of the book is.
Yeah, I was going to go run and grab it. I tell you, there's so many other details in this book. It was like, wow, this is like a study. So, and it was written actually by the guy who, there's 2 people that wrote it. One was going to be one of the youngest 4-minute milers in the country, and at 17. And then the other one was the guy who invented the spreadsheet for Obamacare, who actually was in the White House. And both of them careers were just heading like that. And a couple of years later, they were done. So recovery became, how do you manage that? And it was a super, super good book. And we actually, in an episode, I think, Tristan, you were in that episode where we were talking about the importance of mental recovery. Right. And Josh Watkins talks about it, right? Josh talks about that mental recovery cycle where it's like he goes outside. Instead of sitting at the board, he'll go outside, run, go wash his face, and then come back in, So.
What's the name of the book?
I'm going to go get it. You guys talk. And,
Honest, it's Peak Performance.
Yes, Peak Performance. Thank you very much.
There we go.
Nice.
So I think he'll post it. Sivert will post that up for everybody. It's a super good book. Super well done. Well worth listening to.
Awesome.
So Octa, I'm supposed to ask you, how have you found balancing taking care of your family and reining and training and taking care of your squires? It's a hard balance, and how have you done it? And is it harder or easier than you thought?
I would say when the kids were little, I wasn't very good at it. And my lovely wife, Ashaxi, took the brunt of that. And I think it helped a little bit when she realized that I wasn't just doing it to be a jerk, that I was an addict. And there was a time in the tent where I said, I'm not going to fight in the tournament today. And I rummaged around, and evidently I was fidgety like a addict. And she's like, go do it. Go put your armor on and just go fight. And so she's very understanding, very supportive, even when I win champion tournament that I shouldn't win, because she tells me, well, you probably shouldn't do that. And then we found out we were going to, I think the next week we found out she was pregnant with Molly. And, but these days with the kids being older, Molly or Mata in the SCA, she's been at every event with us. In your range, she was your largesse coordinator and my 13-year-old, and she cataloged everything, and she blossomed in that.
I want to say, as a outsider looking in, it has been really, really amazing how you have involved Mata in your reign and given her a role, because a lot of the princess and prince royales don't really get a role. And it's been great to see her sort of be a role model for other young people and what you can do to, foster community and make things fun, like the Filk contest that she's sponsoring. It's just amazing. It's been really inspiring.
Yeah, so a plug for that. If you're into Filks and you like to be goofy, the Princess Royale is sponsoring a Filk contest. You come up with your filk, videotape it. There's some criteria. There's some bonus points if you do it to certain songs. And then the top 3 are going to perform live at 12th night. And we're very excited about that.
That sounds awesome, to tell you the truth.
She's like, oh, I like filks. I'm like, well, you should do this. She's like, yeah. And I worried she's going to be too nervous sometimes, but we had a little Stromgard Family Day event, and we were there. And of course we were sitting court, and it was her court. I handed it off to her for the day. I sat next to her, and it was her court to do. And the Barons did their court inside her court, and it was a lot of fun. She's a remarkable young person. And our son, he's kind of got the short end of the stick. He's not much for the heat and that. So he's been staying at home and watching the house, which has been a huge, huge help for us. We have a dog, 2 cats, a lizard, a couple of chickens. Yeah. So it's a lot for us to go away for a weekend, and we'd have to get house sitters and all that kind of stuff. So he's really been doing that. He's very interested in the last half of our reign, coming and hanging out, and he wants to be able to put his Prince Royale circlet on, which we haven't given him yet. So which he made, both his and his sister's.
Wow.
With wire bending. So, and I think on the thrones, I think Ashaxi and I, and behind the scenes, all the work that goes into it, I think we've really found a balance. She's taken on the lion's share towards the middle and last half with updating all the spreadsheets and getting all the awards lined up. But I feel like we've been communicating well. We work well in court. I do a lot of the award offerings, and then she has some that she really is into doing and likes to do. And she is fantastic with working with all the different peerages, and just very forward thinking. And I really appreciate that a lot. So yeah, it's not always been easy, but I feel like these days we're balanced out a little bit better. We got a couple of weekends off, so Mona and I might go to the beach and camp out for the weekend here soon and just get away.
Or maybe just stay home and do laundry.
Well, that's what I'm doing this weekend. Laundry and putting away all the camping stuff. Great Western was the last camping event of the season, and it was a lot of miles.
Yeah, it's one of the hard parts. Everybody forgets that the crown comes home and has to unpack all that stuff too.
Yeah, but I won't discount. We have been so fortunate with our adopted family, the people that call us friends and give us all of this grace and support. You can't reign without it. You can't reign without a community like that. It's just really difficult, I would think. And even Rifkin, she's been our media coordinator, and I keep seeing posts show up, and they're like, I never would have thought to do that. That's so amazing.
She has a little background in that.
She does. She's fantastic. And like I said, all of our retinue, and we've had no end of. I've got to meet a lot of people that just come to, I've never met this person, but they're going to stand and attend us for an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah.
Rub icy hot on my shoulder for me because I can't reach that spot. Just roll this on, will you please? Sorry, should that have been filtered? It's all the things. So
all right. Well, we're kind of rounding out the 9:30 here, and it's been great to catch up. And it's super fun. Rifkin, I'm happy you came and threw the insider stuff in here, because I think that was important. And it's really cool that you guys kind of have this family thing going on, and that the community in Antier has really enjoyed. It seemed like everything I've seen online, you almost have this perfect mix of online stuff going. So yeah,
well,
please keep it up.
It's a lot of work, but it's been really, really cool to have the continuity of the reigns. And I think the next reign as well, that is really into, making the hybrid SCA work and building community with people that's, there's still a lot of compromised players that aren't ready to come back yet. And, we need to include them. And, Octa and Ashaxi have done such a great job of keeping that going.
No, and that's a super, super good point, because it's still, the compromised folks still, everybody still has that ability to get sick, still higher than normal, but hopefully it goes down and they can get back out again. But that mix is hard because there's a certain amount of people that don't want it, certain amount of people that do want it, and it sure seems like it's going really well for you guys. So it's been nice to see. Tristan, what do we have next weekend? Or next Friday?
Boy, you caught me by surprise on that one. I did not look it up. Let me just check it out. I've got the list right here.
So while you're doing that, Octa, you have anything last to say?
No, I just thank you all for doing what you do. I think that these shows have been a lifeblood for a lot of people and have brought a lot of communities together, built new communities, fostered new communities. Everybody out there, keep doing what you're doing. Support your neighbors, support your communities, ask what you can do. As far as reigning or being king, volunteer, be a champion. I love my champions. They're an amazing group of folks. Volunteer at a feast. You'll get the people you'll get to meet, doing dishes in the back room.
Oh yeah,
it'll be great. I mean, all of that kind of stuff. When Rifkin was queen, we went and served everybody breakfast at an event. We cooked breakfast for everybody, and that was great.
Can I ask you one of the Duke questions? Like, what's your favorite medieval-esque movie?
Oh man, we could go old school and say Lady Hawk, or we could go Knight's Tale or 13th Warrior.
Okay.
I like the 13th Warrior when he just sits there and listens for a while and then calls them on their bullshit. That's kind of how I like to operate.
I never noticed that.
It's definitely not whatever that motorcycle one was, and I'm probably going to make people mad at me.
God, that was so bad.
What? That was great.
That is the worst.
That was so hard.
You have to make people watch it. It
just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
I know that's blasphemy, but not my fave.
I like somebody old school like Ivanhoe and Knights at a Round Table, old school ones. Those are great.
Yeah.
All right, Tristan, we gave you time. You find it?
I finally got the scrolling here working. This has been a pain. Looks like we have on the 21st the Heroes and Traditions Meridies, the part 2 of that episode.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. And Al-Anon's on for that. He has a whole new group of folks helping him out for that. And I tell you, the weekend after that, we got Knights and Mods Under 30 conversation, which is, I think I'm interested in seeing that one myself, just because, there is, we do have a lot of people that are past 30. And it seems like in the past, a while ago, it was like you're always under 30. And now we have this whole new crew, and I'm lucky enough to see a bunch of them at Penzic this year, and they were just having a blast. And I go, I remember those days. They were doing stuff, the whole wizard stick and the whole thing going on. I was like, I can't.
How old were you when you're knighted?
Oh my God, me?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're killing me. Was I 26? I think.
Okay. Yeah, so you would have qualified for that episode.
Yeah, I would have, but I don't.
If you had a memory, maybe you could be on there.
But thank you, everybody. It's been a great night. Thanks everybody who came out. There was a ton of people. I think you had a lot of Lockheed people hanging out, and because they knew you were on and they love you.
They give me a lot of support.
And I hope I tell you what, your Hawaii thing sounds incredible. You got a great crew of people going, and I think you guys are going to have a wonderful time.
You should just come out. You just come out and train us. Hang out in the sand. I'll get you a drink and a coconut. And
seeing all those guys, everybody there, being all the top people there, having that much fun would be painful. More painful than this replacement shoulder.
All right.
Thanks,
we'll videotape it.
Oh, that'd be great. All right. Well, we're going to say goodnight. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe and go out and enjoy something.
Yeah.
So,
good weekend,
everybody.